What's up everybody, thank you for clicking on this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, it really helped the channel out a lot. And let's get straight to it, hope you enjoy. The wait is almost over. It's been 6 years since Nintendo released one of their most beloved titles yet, and I know some of us goobers need to get caught up a little bit and have some of our most important questions answered, especially when looking at how tight-lipped Nintendo has been about all of their games recently. Are the rumors about it being a prequel true? What timeline does this game even fall under? Will the Master Sword be in this game? Is this Nintendo's first $70 game? Is this Nintendo's largest game of all time? Find out next time on next week's episode of Psych. Y'all are gonna find out in a couple minutes. But first, let's get some basics out the way. Like I alluded to before, Tears of the Kingdom will be raising its price to $69.99. Joining the rest of AAA titles and producing more $70 games. In 2017, Breath of the Wild was listed at $59.99, which is around the same ballpark as other Nintendo games, in between $40 to $60. This is Nintendo's introduction to this new $70 price point for one of their games, and hopefully they don't also join in on the wave of push now, we'll fix it all later, like other AAA games that have also been $70 have been doing recently. And for those of you that are gonna wait for Nintendo to drop their prices, don't hold your breath because Nintendo never drops their prices. It's like, nah, they do, but it usually takes a while. And another thing about the $70 price point that I thought was very intriguing, the new $70 price point was ushered in with the new console of gaming. It hurt, but it was understandable. Better quality, better consoles, higher prices. Some things that have come to light, especially with the recent games like Pokemon Legends Arceus and the Microsoft Activision acquirement that's being stopped by the UK right now, we've seen that the Nintendo Switch is notoriously looked at as a second-rate console behind the PlayStation and the Xbox, and they haven't really increased the quality of their console or their product. When you look at the trailers for Breath of the Wild, it looks good. When you look at the trailers for Tears of the Kingdom, they look good, but it's not as much of a difference in quality or even size for that matter. I don't think that this will be too much of a big deal. But one interesting thing to look at is how will a price increase without a performance increase of that same magnitude affect consumers' feelings about the game? I'm sure games like Gotham Knights would have gotten a better review and would have been received better if it wasn't $70 and maybe more like 20 or 30. Price increase has a big effect on how people judge your game and how people receive your game. And as we've seen with a lot of the games that have been coming out recently that are $70, like your Redfalls, Gotham Knights, or Jedi Survivor, they have not been received as well by the audience because of the fact that their game did not meet the expectations that $70 is just naturally gonna bring. And for even more context, the budget for AAA games could be $70 million, plus or minus 30 million depending on the game. And also Nintendo's pretty tight-lipped about the budget on all of their projects as they are tight-lipped with everything else. But one thing that they have said is that games will not be trending towards $70 moving forward. In the recent Nintendo games that have been coming out, like Pikmin 4 and Metroid Prime Remaster, has not been $70. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will also be the king of the cartridge's biggest game to date, beating out Breath of the Wild at 16 gigabytes. Either clear some space or buy a micro SD because most Switches have 32 gigabytes of internal storage built into them. But back to the actual game, forget all that, here's the trailer! Starting with what we know so far, which is all really directly from the source and trailers, there will be weapon fusion, vehicle customization, and Ganondorf. Weapon fusion is pretty simple as it seems. You take two weapons and you mix them together. And the combination seems very highly sensible, like the combination of an arrow plus Anke's eyeball makes a homing arrow, which just makes so much sense. I don't know why people weren't doing this before. We should have all seen vehicles and vehicle customization coming from a while away, because I know Nintendo's been seething at how y'all been breaking the game's physics to ride what shouldn't be rideable around the map. Gamers have been making flying saucers, metal box catapults, and taking Hyrule by storm. Or by skies, really. So Zelda was overdue for some vehicle customization. And there's some flying vehicles and what seems to be a jetpack and stuff, so we could see some really cool vehicles. And for the whole Ganondorf thing, what can I say about that? He's in the trailer, and by the way, his voice actor is dope as hell. And one thing that will also be in this game, just like it was in the last one, is more voice acting. I still can't get over the fact that they talk. I still get so stuttered when I hear them talk. If I hear Link utter more than a grunt, I'm gonna lose all my shit. With Nintendo being super stingy with one of the most anticipated titles yet, naturally, ambiguity festers questions. Some questions based on genuine curiosity, based on logical evidence, while others being pipe dreams. And one of the questions that I've been seeing on the internet a lot, especially in the beginning stages, was Is this game a prequel? People saw the flying sequels and all that other stuff in the trailers and their minds just got to firing. Is this game a prequel to Breath of the Wild? Or better yet, is this game a prequel to Skyward Sword, which is the first chronological game in the Zelda timeline? Although being very interesting and I looked through it a lot, I personally do not believe that that is the case. The Zelda and Link in the trailers appear to be the same Zelda and Link that was in Breath of the Wild, and that could be a time skip version of themselves, but I still think it's a pretty massive stretch, especially since Nintendo themselves referred to this game as a Breath of the Wild sequel for the longest time. Remember, this game didn't have a name to it. If it wasn't a sequel, they'd at least bring some ambiguity in the naming of the game. And to really douse this ember of an idea, there's already a prequel to Breath of the Wild with Age of Calamity. But all this prequel talk brings up an even more important and even more interesting question. A similar question to that of which the last game brought up. Which timeline does this game fall under? The Legend of Zelda IP has been around for 37 years with nearly 30 games and 3 official yet confusing timelines. All 3 of which lack Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but those questions could be answered in this next upcoming game that comes out next week. The Zelda timeline has always been super confusing, and similar to other companies that tell some sort of story, they don't usually make a timeline until they've already came out with a whole bunch of games and things like that. There are 3 timelines: the adult timeline, the child timeline, and the fallen hero timeline. And I'm not going to go too deep into them because they are extremely meticulous and have a lot of games in them and are very confusing to put together in your mind, but I will break it down to you in the most basic form you are ever going to hear on the internet. Skyward Sword started the lore. Ocarina of Time split the timeline into 2 parts, but 3 timelines. The hero loses and enters the Fallen timeline with retro Zelda games like, well, the original Zelda, and a part where the hero wins, but there's an adult and child version of himself, each with his own respective timeline. That eventually led to the child timeline and it had games like Majora's Mask, and it also led to the adult timeline with games like Wind Waker. I had to do that so many times because the timelines are actually super confusing. Nintendo has claimed that the events of Breath of the Wild occurred extremely far into the future of all of these timelines, so much so that they are myths to the characters in the games, even though they're not actually myths. Which brings up even more questions. Did the timelines converge at one point? Is this the start of a 4th line? Or is this a far-off extension of one of the 3 existing lines? Who knows at this point? Maybe, again, we will get some answers in Tears of the Kingdom. And one of the last questions that I've seen on the internet about this game is, will the Master Sword be in this game? Now, I don't believe every Zelda game has had a Master Sword, but we will see about this one. People ask this question based off of the events from last game and the decrepit way we see the Master Sword in all of the trailers. I personally think it'll be a very integral part, even more integral part than it was, solely based on the fact that it is the main thing and one of the only things in the title screen, or the little title logo. With the Master Sword broken after the fight with Calamity Ganon, I think it's safe to say that the whole Minish Cap and Skyward Sword ploy of fixing the sword and rebuilding the sword will be used again in this game. I think the Master Sword will play an extremely important role in this game, especially when compared to the last game, because in the last game, you had to go out of your way to get this thing, and at the end of the day, you didn't even need it to beat Calamity Ganon. Some would say that Breath of the Wild's Master Sword was the least important Master Sword that we've seen in a Zelda game, if not the least important final weapon or master weapon in any game we've seen from Nintendo or any game beyond that. The trailers, the titles, the promotion, all make me believe that the Master Sword comes back to his former glory in more ways than one this time around in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I've also played the new ones, Breath of the Wild, Link's Awakening Remake. I really liked how different Breath of the Wild was. I was a big fan of the weapon degradation system. I believe that the weapon degradation system, it shed more light on the importance of the Master Sword because that did degrade, but it never went away. And the whole thing of you can beat the game from the very start was very interesting to me. Chrono Trigger did the same thing and it was just as interesting then. People are now speedrunning this game. I've seen a 33-minute speedrun, I think done by Point Crow recently, and he's been working on that for a while because Tears of the Kingdom is about to come out and he just hit a 33-minute speedrun. absolutely crazy sub 34 speedrun. And I'm excited to see what new techs are going to be in this game, what new puzzles are going to be in this game. They said, I don't think shrines are coming back, I think actual temples are coming back, which is a good thing. But yeah, Zelda made me love dungeon crawlers. I usually don't like dungeon crawlers, but Zelda made me like dungeon crawlers. I didn't like the dungeon crawling aspects of Jedi Fallen Order, and that's kind of what made me put it down early, but earlier than I should before I picked it back up again. But Zelda, there's something about that dungeon crawling that's so classic, it feels so good, the rewards are rewarding, and the puzzles are just the right amount of difficult. And I'm super excited for this game to come out. I haven't used my Switch in a while, and now I have an excuse to use it. But thank you for staying this long, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching this video. Spread love, give inspiration in all you do, and peace out.
Welcome to the Crash Show. Take 2.
Thank you guys for staying this long. Thank you guys for being with me. I love the Zelda games. I've played Minish Cap multiple times. I played Ocarina of Time multiple times. Was too scared to play Majora's Mask because the anxiety of impending doom really got to me as a kid. So I just watched people play that one.